Long ago, in a small fishing village by the edge of the blue ocean, there lived a young sailor named Arman. He was known for his courage and his endless love for the sea. Ever since childhood, he would sit on the rocks, listening to the waves crash against the shore, dreaming of adventures far beyond the horizon. The villagers admired him, some said he was reckless, but others called him brave. To Arman, the ocean was not just water, it was a living companion full of mysteries, and he longed to discover them. One bright morning, Arman prepared his wooden ship, the Pearl of Dawn, for a long voyage. His friends warned him, "The sea is calm now, but storms may rise." Arman only smiled and replied, "Storms are part of the journey. A sailor must face the sea with courage." With his supplies packed, water, food, and his treasured compass, he raised the sails. The wind filled them like the breath of adventure, and the ship glided gracefully over the waves. Seagulls circled overhead before disappearing into the distance. For days, the ocean seemed endless and kind, glittering under the golden sun. Arman sang songs to himself, his voice mixing with the rhythm of the waves. But the sea never stays the same for long. On the fourth night, while the moon hung pale in the sky, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The wind grew stronger, and the water beneath the ship began to stir. Arman felt the change. He touched the wooden rail and whispered, "Stay strong, Pearl. We'll face this together." By morning, the sky was covered with heavy gray clouds, the waves rising higher, and the wind roaring like an angry beast. Arman tightened the ropes, tied down the sails, and steered with all his strength. The ocean, once his friend, was now testing him with fury. Then the storm came with full force. Thunder cracked like the sky was breaking apart. Rain poured down in sheets, drenching Arman until he could barely see. The waves rose like mountains, crashing against his small ship. "Hold steady," he shouted, though no one was there to hear him. The Pearl of Dawn groaned under the weight of the storm, water flooding its deck. His compass slipped from his pocket, rolled across the boards, and vanished into the sea. Still, Arman did not give up. He tied himself to the mast with a rope, determined not to surrender. Lightning flashed, and for a moment the sea glowed bright, revealing towering walls of water all around him. Hours passed, but the storm showed no mercy. At last, a monstrous wave struck from the side, breaking the Pearl of Dawn into pieces. The ship cracked apart, its wood splintering like glass. Arman was thrown into the raging water, swallowed by the sea's fury. Chaos surrounded him, salt water filled his mouth, waves dragged him down, and his body fought to stay afloat. He kicked and struggled until his hand caught a floating plank, a broken piece of his beloved ship. He clung to it desperately. The vessel that had carried his dreams was gone, sinking into the depths, but Arman's spirit refused to sink with it. Gasping between waves, he whispered, "I will not give up. The sea may test me, but it will not take my heart." The storm raged on. Arman drifted, half-conscious, clutching the plank. Through the veil of water and lightning, he thought he saw strange shadows beneath him, glowing jellyfish, giant fish, and dark figures moving deep in the ocean. At one point, when lightning split the sky, he saw the vast, ghostly outline of a whale gliding peacefully under him. The sea was not only rage, it was also life, mystery, and power. Hours turned into a blur, but eventually, the storm began to weaken. The waves softened into rolling hills, and the sky cleared to reveal countless stars, sparkling like diamonds above the quiet ocean. Exhausted, Arman floated in silence, the plank his only lifeline. Days passed. The blazing sun burned his skin, and thirst gnawed at him. Hunger made him weak, but hope kept him alive. He thought of his village, of the children who looked up to him, of the faces of those who had once warned him about the sea. He thought of the dreams that had pushed him to sail in the first place. On the third morning after the storm, his tired eyes saw something on the horizon, a ship with tall white sails, strong and steady. Arman waved his weak arms, calling out though his voice was barely a whisper. The sailors on the vessel spotted him and quickly pulled him aboard. "Easy there, brother," one of them said, wrapping him in a blanket. "You fought the sea and survived. That makes you one of us." Arman, weak but smiling, replied, "The sea took my ship, but it gave me wisdom." He closed his eyes, letting the warmth of rescue sink into his bones. When Arman returned to his village weeks later, he was greeted with tears and cheers. Children gathered around him, begging for his story. He told them everything: the calm days of sailing, the fury of the storm, the sinking of the Pearl of Dawn, and the long nights under the stars. But more than the adventure, he shared the lesson he had learned. The sea is a teacher, he said. It gives and it takes. To be a sailor is not just to fight the waves but to respect them. True courage is not in never sinking, it is in rising again after the storm. From that day forward, Arman was no longer just a dreamer. He was a sailor who had faced the sea, survived its test, and returned with wisdom that would guide generations. The villagers honored him, and his story became a tale told by firesides, passed from parents to children. And every time Arman walked along the shore, he looked out at the horizon not with fear, but with gratitude. For though the ocean had taken his ship, it had given him something far greater: strength, humility, and the understanding that storms, no matter how fierce, can never drown the spirit of a sailor who refuses to surrender.